Hello everyone, I'm Kelsey Lemon, Senior Technical Marketing Manager here at Broadcom, and I want to welcome you to this four-part series on how you can get the most out of Skyline's Inventory Export Report feature. In part 4, I'm going to show how you can leverage this report to visualize the state of your VMs. I'm specifically going to be focusing on allocated CPUs, memory, and disks. I'm going to be using the report that I generated in part 1, so if you haven't already created your report, please refer to that video to replicate my steps. And for this particular section, I'm going to be leveraging an existing worksheet that I created in part 2 of my series. So if you haven't already created a report, create a new worksheet in your inventory export report and give it a meaningful name. Now again, for the fun part, right? Let's use the report data to visualize allocated CPUs. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up the VMs worksheet, and I'm going to click on any cell in it, and then I'm going to insert a table and simply click OK. When the table design option appears, I'm going to select Summarize with Pivot Table. Now again, this is a very important step. And when asked where I would like to place it, I'm going to select Existing Sheet, and then I'm going to click on any cell within the new worksheet that I created, and then I'm going to click OK. Now, to populate this pivot table, I'm going to need to get the total number of VMs and the total number of CPUs. So I'm going to drag the unique identifier of each VM to the value section to get the total number of VMs, and then I'm going to drag the number of CPUs. I'm going to drag that field to the row section. Now at this point, I'm simply going to highlight the results. I'm going to create a chart. I'm going to add labels and I'm going to format them as well as name the chart into something more meaningful. And with that, let's visualize allocated memory. To speed things up, I'm going to copy my allocated VM table and I'm going to change the fields. Now, I could drag and drop the memory in megabytes field to the row section, but I want to see my memory in gigabytes. So I'm going to tweak this by adding a custom field. Now, to do this, I'm actually going to go to column O in my VM worksheet because right next to it is the memory in megabytes column. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to insert a new column and I'm going to rename it to memory in gigabytes. Now, to see my memory reported as gigs, I'm simply going to enter this formula, which is basically column O equals column N, which is in memory in megabytes, divided by 1024. Now, since this is a new field that I just created, I'm going to need to refresh my data before I can add it to the pivot table. And then with that, I'm simply just going to drag and drop that to the row section. And also don't forget to delete the number of CPUs. Delete that field that was left over from the original pivot table. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of data here. But I'm going to make this chart easier to read by grouping the data in increments of 25 gigs. Now, this is a very simple process. Just simply select the elements in the table and pick the group selection option, which is under Pivot Table Analyze. Now, like before, I'm going to highlight the table and I'm going to create a pie chart where I'm going to add data labels, format them, and I'm going to rename the chart. Now, finally, let's focus on that allocated disk chart. And like before, right, I'm going to copy my allocated memory table and I'm going to drag the capacity in gigabytes field to the row section and I'm going to delete that custom memory in megabyte field. Now, as you can see here, again, there's a lot of data, but I can clean this up by reporting these figures in increments of 250, and I can do this again by selecting the entire table, and then selecting the group selection option under Pivot Table Analyze. And now that the table is displaying the data exactly how I want it, I'm going to highlight the table and I'm going to create my pie chart where again, I'm just going to simply add data labels and I'm going to format them and I'm going to rename the chart into something more meaningful. And like that, we're done. I hope you found this deep dive of Skyline's inventory export report feature useful. As you can see, it produces a lot of data that can be leveraged in a variety of different ways. And the Skyline team is looking forward to hear how you're leveraging it.